This table talk is made possible by Mental Health Matters, a newsletter from themighty.com. I'm Skye, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Camara.
And I'm Harrison.
And today we're talking about remote work, mental health, going into the office, and which one, works best for all of us. I'm pretty torn on this issue, so I'm going to throw it to Camara first, who I know has some opinions on this.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on this topic. Kind of a controversial one since the option of remote work has become available. I work in person. I work in an office or I leave my house to go to work. That is where I thrive best. I like to be around people. People energize me. Seeing other people working gets me in the zone with working. And with my ADHD, I love body doubling, which is having other people around you who are doing the same thing. You don't need to be talking to them. They are just there. I go to a co-working space that's 2 miles from my house. It's outside, so very air central. Everything's ventilated and feels good, and everyone's doing something different. You can walk around and just be amongst people. And also not. There are private areas where you can go if you don't want to be, but it really gets you in the mode, in the zone of a place to work. For me, it's having that place of work. Getting up in the morning and not having to just roll out of bed into work is just so exhausting and draining for me, knowing that it's nice to sleep in, yes, but if I have that purpose of, okay, I have to get up a little bit earlier, I have to put makeup on, well, for myself, to feel like myself, and I need to go to place of work. Place of work could be 5 miles down the road, 1 mile, 20 miles, an hour and a half. I don't care. As long as I have a destination, that will get me into gear and get me into having the time before to process, knowing that work is coming. I need to be ready for it. And then you get to the place of work and it's like, oh, my bed is not here. I can't sleep. There's other people working. I have to work. That's my opinion on work. I know everyone else has their own opinions, and I think that each one is valid, but as you can tell, this is my spiel of, hey, I like to work in person, and if you do too, that's okay.
I really appreciate that. Now, Harrison, I heard a rumor that you might be on the other side of the spectrum. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side of that. I'm pro remote work, and I'm really happy with the kind of move that society seems to be shifting to this kind of more standard policy of work from home. I think it offers more freedom to be able to kind of coordinate your day so it's not just work home, because I fell into that trap when I was used to go to the office. I'd go to the office, you commute, especially living in LA, which I know Camara does. It's like, the commute is the sucky part of that whole process. You wake up an hour driving through traffic and being frustrated because everybody around you is the worst driver imaginable, and then getting there, trying to find a parking space or dealing with parking lots or whatever, and then going through the entire day and then doing the same thing at the end. And so you're like, yeah, you're working for 8 hours or something, but really you're in the car doing all these things for 11 hours potentially, the entire day. They're not having to worry about commuting, also not having to worry about I enjoy dressing up and stuff for occasions, but having to do it every day is a little bit taxing. I'm wearing sweats right now and I'm really comfortable, so that's a win, I'd say. In that department, I don't have to worry about that. You guys only see me from the top up, which is great. And yeah, I think, in my opinion, there is a lot more freedom to be able to kind of control your own life and control your own schedule. So, you can input errands, you can do things throughout the day that maybe being stuck in an office, you wouldn't have the opportunity to leave or go do. Also, I remember when I worked in the office, going out and getting food all the time was costly. And so just having my refrigerator downstairs, easy. So I'm very much in the remote work from home camp.
You both bring up such good points, and I think that's both points that, both sides that you bring up and talk about. That's why I think I'm so torn. It's my physical health needs remote work. Like you said, Harrison, that not having a commute, huge. I lived and worked in Philadelphia for a bit, and no lie, my hour-and-a-half commute would be a trolley, then a train, and then a bus or two. And it was so hard on my body, especially living with migraine, living with joints that don't like to stay in place. I'd often find myself on the crowded trolley just sitting in the aisle because I couldn't just stand the whole time. And then, it made the 10+ hour day of work, because I was working in a school, so challenging. And I ended up having to leave that position before I was supposed to because of my health and that whole commute situation. And I do love, like you said, Harrison, being able to fit stuff into my day because I work remotely. I get to go to, physical therapy or mental health therapy and stuff like that throughout the day. And it's really nice to just have that built in. But on the flip side, Like Camara said, my mental health needs to see, I need other people around me in order to focus more, in order to, yeah, like that body doubling, like to see other people working really helps me stay motivated to work. So I feel like I can't really find a happy medium because I need remote work for my physical health, but my mental health would thrive if I were working in person or in a traditional work setting. But so that makes me think about no matter where you work, it's important for like our mental health, especially to be able to set boundaries. And I feel like might be harder when you're working at home. I know I really struggle with that. My bed is a foot from my desk. It can be really hard to get out of bed sometimes and roll on over to the desk. Sometimes it can feel difficult because I don't have anywhere else to be to get out of bed and go to my desk. But of course, there's the other end of the boundary spectrum where, oh, well, I'm home already and all my work stuff is here. What if I just keep working for 12 hours and don't stop because it's all at the same place? So Camara, how do you establish boundaries with this flexible work environment?
Even with working in person, as much as I will push it, there's definitely boundaries that you need to set, but also from working from home. I do want to agree that for me, the reason why I push so hard, even when I don't want to go in, like this week, I've pushed to go into the office as much as I can to feel productive, because I know that when I'm at home, I will work longer and get less done. And if anything, take away time from me. I mean, I'm lucky the co-working space that I go to is close by, so it's not too long of a commute, but I don't mind that for having the processing time to get ready into work and to knowing that I will actually have to leave the office, knowing that I have a set time that I have to work. When I'm at home, I'll get distracted. Lunch, it's great to be able to have food there, but I'll take a longer lunch by making food, cleaning up and everything. And then my boundaries with lunch kind of fluctuate. So that can be kind of stressful for me for home. For working with in person, now there are distractions. I get it. Like, even though I love working around people, there's always the person who wants to say hi and talk to you. It is like you do have to leave, so you do have to get all of your work done. You do have to make sure that you're setting up and that you have a scheduled time set, because there have been days even at the co-working space where I'm not as productive as I would like to be because I'm not scheduled in a way that will be efficient, that will actually make my time here worthwhile, because at the end of the day, then I do have to leave. And I'm like, oh, did I get what I could have done at home? Was it productive enough? I think it's finding that balance, making sure you're having boundaries, especially whether you're working in person or at home, making sure you're finding respect for yourself and also for your work.
So Harrison, what boundaries or what do you find helpful when it comes to setting boundaries as a pro remote worker?
Being very clear about your what time frame you're working in. There's been a couple coworkers that I've taken points from in this department, and it's really helped is just kind of making yourself known, saying, okay, this is the time I work. This is when you can expect me to be around. And I think that's something that I like compared to the traditional work in the office is that kind of, because our company is so spread out, it's not like one group sitting in one city somewhere. And because we have people coming at different times, it's easier to kind of schedule through. It's like setting up the boundaries with your coworkers in a way that can kind of work for everybody involved, if that makes sense. It's not just like hey, everybody has to be at the office at 9 and oh no, this person can't be there until 10. It's just like people kind of jump in when they can. And I think being very pointed with your coworkers about your boundaries can really help not only set a standard for yourself, but it also allows them to know exactly when to reach out to you and when to expect work from you. I think that's really crucial. It's really good to kind of set up that communication.
You both have such great advice. It sounds like you both have figured out, what boundaries work for you and what helps you be your best self at work. And I know, though, it can be tricky sometimes to enforce those boundaries. For me personally, I had the great idea of I'm going to put, when I'll be out of office, this strict time on my Google Calendar for everybody to see. I think I myself obeyed it maybe 2 days in a row when I started it, and that's, gone completely away. I have not been able to stick to that, but it's there. So I think on the flip side of this, what tips or ideas do y'all have for folks who say, are working in person, but maybe rather work from home, or, they're remote, but they rather be in person? What advice do you all have for people in these situations?
I think I'll give the advice for someone who is working at home but wants to work in person and can't at the moment. I would say find ways that you can still create routine in your life. Even if you're still working at home, do you have an outside area you can go to, or can you take a walk before you start your day? Can you find ways that you don't just roll out of, I know it's hard, especially when I work from home, it's so hard to create that routine, but even just going and getting a cup of tea or coffee or water before you start work. Don't look at your phone. Take a walk outside and find ways, if you need people around, find ways to incorporate that. Maybe that's on a Zoom call, like Zoom co-working. Maybe that's calling a friend and having them just on the phone, or a coworker or someone who you can be disciplined with, but they're there while you're working in some ways. If you have roommates and they are interested in co-working, maybe ask if you can co-work in the living room for a while with them. But if I understand that isn't always going to be the best dynamic, it's just trying to figure out creative ways to incorporate people. You also want to be like safe health-wise. So it's just trying to find that balance of making sure that you are creating that routine before and after work. After work, you also need to take that walk, or you need to get that tea. You can't go back to rest in your bed, because at that point, that is your office too. So you do need to have breaks and make sure that you're creating the boundaries with yourself.
That is amazing advice. Now, Harrison, what advice do you have for folks who may be working in an office, working in person, but would rather be remote?
Firstly, I would just say try to communicate with your HR or your company. There might be an opportunity for you to kind of work a hybrid style. Maybe you can work partially from home and partially from the office. I think if you have an office where you can kind of like hide from people, maybe put a sign up or be communicative with your teammates and say like, hey, these are my times that I don't want to be disturbed. This is like my work time, like from 9 to 11. This is like, please don't bother me. Kind of setting boundaries with people that way would help too. And also, I think something that we get caught up on a lot, and it's a little easier to manage when you're doing remote, is when you have your set times. Like, let's say you work from 9 to 5 and that's your time. In the office, it's a little easier someone to just be, oh, hey, stick around for a few more minutes. Like, how about you're already here, why don't you just stick around a little longer? As somebody that's usually willing to be like, oh, okay, like, because I want to please everybody, is I'll stick around, but then I'm here for another hour, another 2 hours. You kind of build up this resentment towards the job, right? So if you could at least establish that, like, no, sorry guys, I have a hard out at this time. Like, every day, this is my hard out. I'm here to work. I will do as much work until that point, but at that point, I'm out. And if you can make that clear with your teammates and they can respect that, then that's at least kind of setting you up towards kind of having a work-life balance that's a little bit more balanced, I suppose.
More excellent advice. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, I think finding the boundaries that work for you, even if you have to, experiment a little, like, oh, maybe one week you try, setting up a time on your calendar where you say, I'm out of office here. If that doesn't work, you can always try something else. Thank you both so much for your time and sharing your opinions. It was great to have both perspectives here, especially for me as somebody kind of, wishy-washy about the whole thing. And friends listening at home, if you want more conversations like this, subscribe to Mental Health Matters by going to bit.ly/mhinbox. That is bit.ly/mhinbox. We'll see you in your inbox. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Farewell.
So long.
Adieu.